Hi, Janelle.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing amazing. I'm doing amazing, sis. Whew. Wow. What a week. Another week, right? We
Yeah.
missed our call 2 weeks ago, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot has happened since the last time we saw each other when you were in Jamaica. So much has happened. And I definitely want to talk about like just for me, the things that have come up. Because I think when you came, a lot of stuff was coming up for me, just in terms of it being almost a year since I made the move to Jamaica, you being the first, like my first friend who has come to see me since moving down here and like intentionally choosing to spend time with me, like for the purposes of being there for me. And that was another kind of experience in terms of just like opening my eyes to friendship and like the next level of friendship because I've been so used to throughout my life, I've been used to moving around, right? And because of that, I tend to have very core friends, right? Because the friendships and the bonds have to withstand distance, right? They have to withstand that lack of proximity, that lack of immediate access, physical access at least. And so to now see where I felt like I was the one that would have to take the responsibility of maintaining these friendships. And whenever I travel to New York, making sure that I see all my people. When I travel to Atlanta, making sure that I'm putting out the energy to see all of my people. And so now coming to Jamaica, and it's like my girl came to see me. It was like, oh wow, I received that. Thank you. So I think from you coming, even more so, it was just like a spiral of pieces coming together. So it's
I
been
love
up.
that.
It's been up.
I love that. And what's interesting about that is just alignment. Because this year in particular, it occurred to me like, oh, I've never actually gone to go visit my friends.
Mm.
I was like, a part of my desire just for my life is to be a world citizen. I want to have friends across the globe that I go and visit and like, no, we're really friends.
Mm.
Like, and a part of me coming to visit you was realizing like, oh no, this is actually real.
Yeah.
A desire of my heart. Because I never really wanted one big house. I always wanted a lot of small homes everywhere.
Mm.
So just to see that start to come to fruition with the fact that none of my close friends live near me. Everyone is in a different country. So I think about Kate in China, you in Jamaica, and me and Kate have had monthly talks since 2018. Um, so knowing that it's also a desire of mine to move down to Jamaica. Now you're in Kingston. That was literally the last city. I was like, okay, I gotta go see Kingston so I can know where I want to be.
Yes.
And so visiting you and making you like the first person who I took that initiative with to be a better friend to. It felt great. And then for us to do it, right? Because remember in the plans, I was originally planning to do it a week prior, but moving it back just so happened to coincide perfectly with so many astrological events
Mm.
These just things that were happening on the island, i.e. Carnival. So 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10. The timing. Like, so to your point about flow.
Mm.
And yeah, just the prayer that you said earlier, our desires, we know that what we ask for, we will get. Yeah. And life is different when you live that way. Like, oh, I know it's happened. It's happened. This is just the unfolding.
This is just the unfolding. Like that takes it to a whole nother level of being, just being in existence with all that there is. It's like I know stuff is going to happen in my favor for my benefit because I co-create my world. So yes, you know what I mean? Like it's having a certain mindset that I think helps bridge that connection that we inherently have.
Hmm. Yeah.
Because there are people who don't necessarily go with the flow, right? And their reality is like things never work out for me. Ah, 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 ah. This is not what I wanted. Not realizing that in the same ways that we can look at a situation and see all the ways that we don't want something, we can also do that same practice and look at the ways in which it does do something for us. But it's a mindset to be able to shift into that frame of mind. And so even with what you were pointing out and kind of like what we've been talking about so far, there's like a flip of the coin where I'm the one going to see people. Now the flip is people are not coming to see me, right? For you, the flip is now I am going out to see people. And so that flip of the same, it's the same like field. It's the same lesson, so to speak. It's just, oh, let me just flip it on the other side.
Mhm. Experiencing both sides of the pole. Yes. Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm. What else has come up for you since you got back?
That's what I should have grabbed my journal. Oh, here it is. Ha ha. Things that have come up for me since being back. I'm starting to, my mind is just opening. My mind
Mm,
is just opening to so many things.
mm,
Paying attention to my triggers now. And just like you said, being able to do, I would say, like, to transmute it mentally. That's been a big thing that's been popping up for me. Whereas before I would definitely be not I'm usually not a person that's in flow, for the record. But getting more so into that has been quite interesting, where something doesn't go right, quote unquote, and my ability to stay in it
mm,
and perceive what else can come from it has
mm,
been, so I've been working on um and it's not even, I have not been working on not getting upset, but rather being able to exist in the upsetness and allowing it to go through me and using it to make something new. Whereas before, I would get into a pity party or a bout of anger, and it's like all is lost. The end. Ugh. It's like, no, now I find myself taking every single step in every thought and just being more strategic with things. And I finished a show called Shogun. And I love that show because the leader, I think his name is Taranaga. There's a quote. This guy asks him, "How does it feel to control the wind?" And he says, "I just study it." And that I feel is what's been happening for me. I have a better sense of where I am on the unfolding of life. I can sense it better. And also another thing that's been happening too, I think I don't know, I think my spiritual gifts are picking up. Where it's okay. I joined a dating app again, yeah.
Yeah.
And the three people who I spoke to on the phone,
Yes.
I knew what they did before they told me.
Mm.
And I'm just like, "Oh, are you in such and such?" And they were like, "Oh, you know, like you're very smart for putting that together." And it's like it has nothing to do with intelligence. It's 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 the field.
Yes.
It's the field.
Mm.
Just need to perceive it, and you just got to perceive it. That's it. And it was honestly, it was kind of scary. Not scary. That's not the right word. It was like, oh, this is really happening. Yeah. So that, and this, it's just, I've been just so expanded lately. What else has been coming to
Now,
me?
wait,
And
wait.
yeah.
Before you go into that, because this kind of like I'm seeing you like when you talked about you just gotta perceive it and there's a field. Like I think about like there just being like thoughts, like a grid of just like thoughts and like ideas around, right? And being able to like pull it in. Is that what
Mhm.
you mean?
Exactly
Yeah,
what I mean.
yeah. I've been doing some of that too. Like,
Yep.
like, how's this person? And then boom, person sends a message or ask a question and the person's like, oh, I was just about to say something about that. I'm like, oh,
The telepathy.
empathy.
Mhm. And when I was in Jamaica, it was happening. Yeah.
Hmm.
So it was already happening with the guy who had did my ride, to
Yeah.
Kingston. Like we would be sitting there and it was happening like really live to the point like we
Hmm.
started joking about it. I'm like, man, it's that telepathy. And so, we would be laughing. He's like, okay, your telepathy is not on. If I miss something, or to the point where we did not have to say anything sometimes. And it's just like an understanding.
Wow.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Which
Hmm.
brings me to the zeitgeist that we're in.
Hmm.
And what I perceive it's happening, and I've been saying this for a while, is we're coming into a time where your ability to exist
Hmm.
is going to be dependent on how connected you are to God and your ability to have that perception. Just you have to be on. You have to be on and realize that majority of our time is actually for preparation. That's the majority of it. Because when you achieve your goal, it's just a mere moment in time. It's a blip. Boop. Everything else up until then can be, if used correctly, preparation. So even like in enhanced abilities, being able to do it is one thing. Yeah, but we're past that now. It's just about practicing.
Hmm.
Everything is. Yeah.
Hmm. Girl, that's a word. That's a word. Because I think in this society, we're often conditioned to focus on that blip of time, that momentary success, that momentary space of quote unquote success where everything kind of comes together, where one journey ends and another begins, right? Where we get to this point of like, I got it. And I'm actually kind of seeing it being like a star-like moment, right? So it's like the coming together, there's this star-like moment. And then through that, we now have another set of opportunities and paths that we have to take. And so to your point, that now puts us right back into preparation, where it's the separation. Let's choose a path. Let's walk a path. In us walking that path, we're gathering information, knowledge, experiences, energy. We're releasing energy, experiences, people, like all of that is happening in the preparation phase until the cycle hits that point again and we're like, we've realized that we've actualized that we've manifested whatever we've been preparing for. And then we do it again. Now, there's also a piece where what process we engage with may look different. So, like the process that it takes for me to manifest something, to bring something into my field, it's going to be a different process compared to what I have to do to maintain that manifestation, to hold that manifestation. But it's still a process, right? So it's like there still is that cyclical nature of it. But now that I'm in a different sphere or in a different kind of plane because of the previous one, I have to now exercise, like you said, and practice the things that I acquired, the things that I've picked up, and now I'm applying. And then in my application of that, I'm also learning, I'm growing, I'm testing things out, I'm seeing what works and what doesn't work. Boom, we manifest, we create, we maintain. Next cycle, let's bring all that information that we learned from the second cycle into the third, you know? So it's a steady, I think, progression of both linearity, right? There's like an order, but then there's the cyclical nature of it too within that order.
It's a spiral.
It's the spiral.
I've been obsessed with seashells lately, and that's what I think about.
Girl.
Spiral. I collect seashells, y'all.
Girl, okay. You want listen, you want so this is what I've been collecting lately.
For real?
Don't play. I'm not playing. Just before we got on this call, I was outside observing the snail. I was outside watching it, studying it, like you said. I'm like, oh, first of all, the snail actually was moving in a spiral. And it made me think, I'm like, is it that there are different types of snails where some move in straight lines and some move in spirals? Or have I just internalized this picture that a snail moves straight? Girl, spirals.
Yeah.
And even with your seashells, do you have some with you? Because I'm observing this snail shell, right? And there's a perfect spiral in it, right? There's a perfect spiral. But then there's also the ridges,
Yeah.
the lines, right?
Let me see. Because you can charge items, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
on my plants. Yeah, it looks a little, I didn't listen to my plants. It was telling me, don't put me in the sun, and I did, yeah. I
Okay.
have all the seashells I've been collecting, they're in here.
Mm.
There's one, let me see, I don't remember which one it is. Which one did I get? Which one did I get? Anyway, let me see, I got two different ones here. Yeah. So you got two different spirals. This is a whole thing, yeah.
Oh,
Just this,
beautiful. Wow.
and then I have one like yours.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, and to your point, that's how nature moves. Nature moves in cycles and it spirals. It's the momentum of life. I explained to my brother, I said, okay, in life, you're either moving up or you're moving down. And people, I said, you notice things are keep occurring. There's these cycles, yeah, boom. I said, you cannot, I said, you have to know if you're moving up or if you're moving down.
Mm-hmm.
Moving up, do not get off of the spiral. Don't get off of the momentum. Do not. I've been observed. You know who else moves in? What else moves in? Spirals, eagles. Yeah.
Ooh.
And they'll catch the wind
Okay.
and ride it up. They just ride it up. That's such is life. Mm.
Ooh. Catch the wind.
That's it. The momentum of life. That I think that's that flow that you're speaking of, that divine grid. It's like, okay, what are you picking up on? That is the win. Yeah. If you pick up on the right things, you'll naturally go up.
Mm-hmm.
Naturally. It's natural. It's not when you talk about going from one thing to another, it's going right now where I feel like I'm going from force to flow. I'm in that transition. And a part of picking up on the grid is the wind, right? To the point where now, like I'm big into, let's say, like the 7 hermetic laws. Number one, the law of mentalism. What you think about, you bring about.
Mm.
And so I've been using that lately in this type of way. That's how my journaling is also evolving. I'm starting to use it to manifest. And prior to this time in my life, I was manifesting the external world, but now I've switched it because I realized I could just manifest me as that person that can exist in that place. And that's been helping me. So this is going to be a silly example just to,
Give it. Bring
okay.
it. All
Uh,
examples are equal.
yeah. So I've been noticing I have resistance on like sexiness and being fine, like the attention. Yeah. So boom, on my Instagram feed, this guy, I think he is so fine. Good Lord. Good God. Jesus Christ. Jesus. Like he popped up on my Instagram feed and I had a whole genuine like moment. And then it occurred to me, what would my life be like if I could be with a fine man like this? I was like, I feel like I'm choking.
Okay.
Hey, why can't I be with a fine man like that? And then it occurred to me, what if I was that fine? What if that's the effect that I had on people? And I was like,
Hello.
oh, I can get fine, fine. I can get fine, fine. Oh, so that was like a whole unlock for me. But I used that to illustrate how you can catch the wind. The things that give you a strong feeling, pay
Mm.
attention to them and play with the idea. Don't just
Mhm.
act so fine, scroll. No, I'm really affected by this. Why am I so affected? Why does this feel so unusual?
Yeah.
Oh no, we're gonna make this regular. Regular. Mhm.
Oh my. So you know what just came to me, right? Regular and regulate.
Mm.
right? And
Oh.
that feeling that we get, we're often not able to regulate the experience and the emotions of it. So you just hit a gem where make it regular, and then it will be regulated. Your system will be regulated. Make
Mm-hmm.
the thing that is unfamiliar familiar to you by becoming it,
Mm-hmm.
by embodying it,
Mm-hmm.
to regulate that. Wow.
Even the sheer imagination,
Yes.
imagining it.
Mhm.
Oh, and another thing I've been doing too, like playing around with my imagination. Now, what I do, because our phones, I believe the phone is really hijacking our mental capacity to imagine. But I said, okay, how do I make sure this thing isn't using me? I'm going to use it. So
Mm.
now I started to do, if I see somebody experiencing something that I want, I will put myself in them. Okay. So, boom, if there's an experience I haven't had, but I'm watching someone on my feed experiencing it, I will put my awareness in them and see myself doing the thing that I'm watching. And that I did it once and it was so powerful. There was this video of this woman, she was pregnant, and the poor woman, she could not help. She's just crying, like, but she's communicating with her husband. The husband's like, babe, it's whatever you want. She knows her crying gets silly, but the hormones and stuff. And I was like, I found myself annoyed. I'm like, yo, why is she crying? All this crying, crying. But I'm like, no, what would it feel like to be with someone who wasn't bothered by the fact that I cry? Because I cry. I'm a cry baby, but no one knows. And so I imagined myself in her and experiencing it. And it was really healing, very healing.
Mm.
Pro tip, use it. 10 out of 10.
Wow. That
Yeah.
takes put yourself in another person's shoes to a new level.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It creates it's like instead of put yourself in another person's shoes, it's put yourself in the other person, not their shoes. Put yourself in them. And then wear their shoes.
And this is what entities do to us. Okay. This is another, uh, I just had this revelation before going down to Jamaica, realizing that when people talk about, oh, you're possessed, yeah, it's a
Mm.
lot of spirits that sit up in people and that do that exact thing. And they're waiting for that moment that you get triggered a certain way to live out something through you. Oh, well, why? One, the way to overcome that, I think, you just simply have to acknowledge that you have dominion over you. One. And it puts everybody that thinks that the people who have been hijacking or entities that have been hijacking your experience, it puts them on notice. They're like, oh, dang, time is up. A. B, that's it. Just A. That's all I got.
That's it. No, that's I would agree 100% with that. 100%. 100%. I told somebody that today actually. I was like, when you call them out, they have to answer. They
Mm-hmm.
can't not answer if you call it out. So call it out. I see you. I see what you're doing. I see what you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you are like what you're saying, right? If you acknowledge it, that means that you are inside of you, embodying you and seeing out, right? And so there's no space, there's no emptiness, there's no dissociation or separation to where that entity can even come in.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like by acknowledging it, I'm embodying the fact that I am here. I am me. This is me fully. And I see
Mm-hmm.
you outside of me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm, girl.
Mhm.
Them spirits, I've been this year, I think I've created such an intimate relationship with the spirit world in that regard.
Mhm.
Possessions, working with low vibrational demon energy, like just certain entities from other timelines, other dimensions. Like I've interfaced with quite a few this past year. And it can be, I mean, it can be intense.
Mhm.
It can be
Mhm.
intense because sometimes, and this is something that's coming to me now, is sometimes it is required for the passage of that entity for it to go through us. And
Mhm.
so maybe another step, but for a different purpose, is acknowledging it and then understanding its purpose so that you have choice and agency over what's next. Because sometimes I've had to embody a, let's say, a dark feminine energy in order to transmute it,
Mhm.
right? In order to actually work with it to evolve that spirit. Because that's another thing too. The spirits are not always there because there's some like evil motive. Sometimes they need our help getting
Mhm.
through evolution. And because we are manifested here in this density, we have that power. We have power over them in the physical and in this dense material world. And so sometimes it needs us to embody it to then allow it to evolve and develop and then be released.
Mhm.
So there's that other element of discernment too, where you know once you release it, it's done. And that is again going back to this is my energy. That energy is no longer with me.
Mhm.
But sometimes I've had to step into full vessel mode and
Mhm. Mhm.
just allow so that the manifestation of the spirit in that form can be transformed into something else so that it's not coming back as that.
Yeah. Mhm. Surrender. We talked about that while I was in Jamaica, this notion of surrender and allowing things to pass. That's huge.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Even if I think about just my like manifestation example, right? Me putting myself in that person and having that one experience, boom, I've gotten what I needed. I got that mental log. Now I can take it and I'm
Yeah.
free now to experience it. Yeah, in my own reality
Mm-hmm.
because I've experienced it. Yeah. Mhm.
Now, for
Mm.
you, you have to see it in order to then do that practice of imagining.
It helps me.
It helps. Okay.
Yeah, because it's not a dependency.
Mm,
Ever, I find that the things it's a shortcut. That's the best way. It's a shortcut. It's a shortcut. And it's a shortcut because the things that I would otherwise have resistance towards, when I'm able to do that now, when I experience it, it eliminates the separation that I put in between me and a thing. So it's just a shortcut. I'm trying to think of other. I've been working on imagining, let's say, like just creating out of my sheer imagination, just like close my eyes. Usually those things, um, when I do that, it has nothing to do with anything mundane. Usually I I'm off in my own world. Like I have this whole world that just unfolds in my
mm,
mind. And I go up there and I do work.
Mm.
Yeah. So, and even in me doing the work there, when I start to see how it takes shape here, I'm like, oh, this is deep. This is deep. Yeah. Yeah. I'll also say it's kind of faster. It's faster too. Um, and an example, I will do meditations. They're called active guided imagination meditations,
Okay.
YouTube. And it's like using Jungian psychology, where Jung, he was a psychologist and he believed that your dreams would tell you everything you need to know about what you need to work through. Similarly, the imagination, if we both were to sit here and imagine a wall, my wall would look different than yours. There's a reason why. Yeah. And so breaking all that down has been quite interesting. And just using it as a way to absolve things. That's another thing I've been doing. I realize I don't gotta work hard.
Mm.
It's it's not. I just honestly, I just decided I'm not going to take a long time to work on stuff. The minute that I say it, I expect it.
Woo.
Yeah. I just
Woo.
expect like this, nah. Boom. It when I say I'm trying to think of what something is, I, I just know it. It's weird. It's not weird, it's just I can't put it into words, but that's the core. If there's
Mm.
something that I want to transmute
Mm-hmm.
life, when I decide, usually that's what takes me a while to get to the point of decision making. But once I decide
Mm-hmm.
that I'm not going around that mountain, you can forget it. Any remnants that seem like they are part of the old story, I just recognize them as the old story. And it's like, no, it's just fading. Oh,
Right.
that's cute. Cute,
Yes.
cute.
Yes. I've been laughing at those thoughts now. I'm like, oh, hey, that
Oh, you got
I just say cute. I was like, oh, that was a nice little distortion you made. That's cute. That was cute.
oh, look
Pookie.
at you.
Trying to stay relevant. Girl, but that goes back to what we were saying earlier though, right? It's the journey, or not even the journey, but the process of decision, right? The process of getting to the decision. Boom, decision happens. Now I'm putting into practice all the things that I learned through my decision making process. Boom. And it's
Mhm.
like what you're saying, it gets easier because you're just scaffolding, right? You're taking everything that you're learning from one place, applying it in the next, but because you applied it already, it's like it's there. You don't have to do extra work.
Mhm.
You just have to follow whatever process has been laid from the application previously, and then do your tweaks along the way, right? So it's
For me.
there's definitely a powerful kind of what you thinking about. It's
Keep on, keep going, keep going.
there's that power in using the evolution of what was to propel to the next, but kind of like what we were saying too, it's telling the old story like, hey, there's no space here. We can do something else with you. Let's transmute that too into something else. And then at, let's say, level 3, what is the next kind of transmutation of that going to be? Ideally, it'll be maybe the story is no longer separate, right? Maybe there isn't that separation where I have to tell the old story. There's no space for you. Or, hey, old story, I see you. Now it's now there is no difference between new and old story. Now this is where I am.
Mhm.
But again, that moment of coming to comes with that process of merging old and new, releasing old, embodying new, embracing new until you get to that next moment. And then now you have to live whatever that combined integrated story is. And that's gonna be like, it's like another book. And I'm like, we just gonna keep,
Forever.
it's literally
Yes.
forever.
Which is so exciting. It's exciting because it's like, okay, if this is where I am right now, I
Mm.
haven't even scratched the surface. I ain't even really, I'm tapped in, but I ain't tapped
Girl.
in. To the point, like,
Hmm.
I just the unfolding of life, my mind, I'm just like my manifestations are so like it's so rapid now. It's so rapid that I can miss it if I'm not attentive. Like the rose, I think my roses are an excellent example. Yesterday, I went to the Safeway, yeah, and I was like, oh, I want some flowers for my house. And they were $15. I'm like, oh, Safeway done gone up on the flowers. They used to be $10, whatever. I was like, no, these aren't cute. I passed my garden today, and this is what I wanted. This is what I
Wow.
wanted. Being, oh, that's the perfect analogy to what unfolding is like. There's a million
Mm.
ways that I can get some flowers. It's a million ways. It's a million ways I can have flowers if I'm tapped into the grid enough to allow it to come in. It's a lot of ways that we can have access to the things we desire, but when we're not aware, we miss it.
Wake up.
Mhm.
Gotta wake up.
Yeah, it's like you have to, it requires looking at life differently. Um, who did I listen to? Ashira Star Goddess on YouTube. She made a great point in saying we're programmed to only see things two ways. But really it's infinite. God is infinite. You want some flowers, God? Like that's it? That's all you wanted? Okay, go drive by. Go ahead, go to IHOP. Oh, okay. You think you're doing something? Oh, I'm going to go a different route today. How good is my navigation skills? Bam,
Right,
flowers.
right,
Look
right.
at that. You could have went a million other ways, but because you're not so rigid, you in flow, you get what you want.
Mm. Wow.
Mhm.
My mind immediately went to conception,
Mm, mhm,
right? And the
mhm,
the
mm,
millions of opportunities
mm.
that beings can manifest. And
True.
then there's that flow, that allowance. Because even in that, like I've been studying it a little bit more where, you know, I learned that there are enzymes on or within a woman's egg that actually kill the sperm cells before, like, you touch it, you're dead. You touch me, you're dead. But there are some, there's there's literally that one, maybe two, highly unlikely but possible that the three slip in. Wow, they going at
Every-
it,
Everybody else getting
knocked
eliminated.
off, eliminated. Okay, about 100, about 1,000. But that is literally the process that we go through. And it's sometimes that's why it can sometimes feel so heavy for people, because I want to acknowledge that too. Like the process of decision making in and of itself can be arduous because there are so many possibilities. And a lot of us have the programs of being perfect, And so I need to find which path or opportunity is perfect. And so that means I have to lay out step A through F of these million opportunities. Or there are people who, what you were bringing in earlier, they only see that there's two possibilities. Oh, well, I only have this and I only have that. And they miss the million other possibilities. It sounds like my daughter is knocking on the door. It
Okay.
sounds like a baby knock.
Mhm.
Yes.
Feature.
Teacher, right? She might come in. She might come in.
Mhm.
But yeah, so that decision and that again final spark where it comes together, where the sperm and the egg come together and that spark. It's that similar feeling or that similar process of when we decide to align with God, right? When
Mhm.
we say, oh, this this one,
Mhm.
based off of how I'm feeling, based off of this God energy that is stirring in me, this is the one for right now. And then when we follow that, look at the manifestation. So hold on one second. Well, we can keep
Yeah.
building that while I go see what's going on.
Mhm. No problem. Yes. I love that. I love that. Um, that reminds me of something that you sent me, Shola, as you talk about conception, the law of three, where they say it takes three things to have a manifestation. You need the active principle, so that's the sperm. You need the passive principle, that is the egg. And you have the container, right? Where is this going to occur? That's the womb. That's one example of the law of three as it relates to manifestation. Another example, all my scientists out there, correct me, but you think about a light bulb, right? The glass within itself is the container, right? Let's say the filament, the little magnetic piece or electrical wire, inside, that's the passive principle. It's just sitting there. The active principle, boom, is the electricity that runs through it, right? That energy current. So as we think about making decisions, there's what you will actively do, there's the passive piece of it, and then there's the container within itself. Yeah.
Keep going, because you just okay. Wait, can you run it back? Or are you gonna keep going? Because that I need to hear that. I need to catch that.
The law of three, that video you sent me earlier,
Yeah.
days ago, talking about manifestation and conception, right, is an example of the law of three. The active principle is the sperm. The passive principle is the egg. The womb is the container for it all. Everything that is manifest, you need those three basic principles. Now, how it all comes about, that's unique, but that's called, I think it's mesoteric studies, right?
Mm.
I think that's the name of, there's esoteric.
Mm.
So hey, I gotta find, there's this lady who I listened to. I don't even know the lady name on Instagram, but I downloaded her stuff and I was like, yo, this some deep stuff.
Yeah.
But she had talked about the Enneagram. And the Enneagram is usually a psychological thing, but that's not the root of it. The root of it is like a mesoteric understanding of how you create. So I don't know the numbers exactly, but that active passive
Mm.
container triangles in the middle, but all the other numbers on there, that's the natural flow and progression of a manifestation. So if you'll notice, when you may be trying to manifest something, that's how you can know where you are in the cycle. Usually on your path to a manifestation, usually it's not just like, aha, you know, usually, usually there's some type of disappointment and then you go up. Oh yeah, I'm getting close. And then you don't. And then you go further down and then bam, you get there. But it's all, the way she explains it, she can plot out. She shows you how different celebrities use it, how they use it to get to where they're trying to go. I'm not well versed in celebrities. Lord, Shakira could probably pass me on the street and I would not know it was her. Be like, hey girl, them hips, you doing it? Be like, what was that?
Right.
But yeah, that's a part of creation. And I love this idea that decision making is a process. That whole concept for me is so liberating. Because I find myself frustrated when I don't always know what I want. But this is going to help me tremendously in realizing me getting to know what I want is a process within itself. And so there's nothing to really be hard on myself about. Just let it unfold. Let it unfold. Don't don't not make it fun. That's another thing I've been working on. Baby, is in one of my meditations, I was talking to Thoth. Okay. Yeah, so boom. And we in this room and it's full of books. And it's like, yeah, these are all your memories. And then we got to talking. And I'm like, he asked me something. He's like, okay, when's your last happy memory? And I was like, oh, like all these books that's filled. I don't have no like something that comes to me that I'm like, dang, this was a happy. And he was like, yeah, okay, that's what you need to work on.
Mm.
Creating joy, actively creating positive memories. Because memories are an imagination. The only thing that's real is now. So you can change your world that way too. You can change your memories. It's called revision. Mm-hmm. Go ahead and erase that stuff. Let it go.
You know, it's interesting that you bring that up because I had a really similar experience. Well, okay, one, it sounds like y'all was in the Akashic records or in some type of all-time library, right? Of just like your life story. And
Yeah.
I do believe that we have that. Like there's just so much wisdom and so much knowledge stored. Like even memories, that room probably had memories that were stored from your DNA that you
Mm,
experience like in this physical realm, but there's still memories that get stored and encoded in us. So there's that, and I definitely want to go back to that. But the piece that I resonate with and have a story for is my husband asked me, this is probably like sometime maybe 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. He was like, you know, what are your childhood, like positive childhood memories or like happy memories? And I was like, I don't have
mhm,
any. Like, and then I would think about some. And the moment I would think about a happy memory, it's like there would be a condition. It was
mhm,
happy, but then something happened
mhm,
and it took away that feeling. It was happy, but then this happened. Adult stuff happened.
mhm,
And it's
mhm,
like, it was interesting because in that discussion, I actually remember becoming defensive because I'm like, you're asking me a question and I'm telling you I don't have them. And he's like, but you gotta have them. And I'm like, but I don't because these conditions, right? And
mhm,
so after reflecting, it was in order for the unhappiness, the ever almost everlasting feeling of unhappiness that I've carried with me was validated by the belief that any happy memory that I had was overshadowed by a memory of conflict. And so it was like that belief system had to be real in order for the unhappiness that I carried with me to be true. And just like what you're saying, I had to rewrite, I had to revise it right? I had to revise it to be like, no, but I don't have to, I don't have to be unhappy forever.
It's so crazy you say that in the meditation. And what I had said to myself maybe a day before, I was like, it felt like perpetual grief. That was
Yeah.
the word. Perpetual grief. Like, and I'm like, I don't want the future to look like that. Not with everything I know right now. No, that's not an option.
Okay.
Uncheck that box.
Okay.
Not doing it. And since that meditation, since having that realization, I just feel so much lighter, and I'm creating more moments of play, of
Mm.
like wonder. I'm just finding myself like, even when I saw that divine man on Instagram, I was like, yes, this is, yeah. More please.
More, please. Mm.
Yeah. And I think so much of it is being able to transcend, like just to transcend the program. That's another thing that keeps us in these negative cycles, especially I think as women, the martyrdom, the badge of honor that comes from martyrdom.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Mm.
If you are a happy woman, it can attract jealousy, envy, but no. What if it attracted more of what you were? Birds of a feather do flock together. I heard someone say, if you want better, she said, you gonna have to change your energy before you get in some rooms. The type of people you want in your life sometimes, no, you have to change.
Right.
You gonna have to be a whole different person to experience certain type of people because they just not on that. You need new problems. You can't have the same problems. I need some, I need first class problems.
Hello. Okay. Okay. I need first class problem.
Yeah, that's another way you can get on a different timeline. I don't deal with those types of problems anymore.
I don't I don't deal with seat 30 problems. Like
Mm-mm.
staffer. No.
No. Mm-mm. How do you
Mm-hmm.
not deal with those problems? You just don't.
Right.
You just don't. You don't.
And that's the secret to boundaries. That's the secret to boundaries. You know, it's just like you just don't do certain things. You don't have to declare like I I don't have first class, I mean, commercial class problems. So I that's my boundaries. Like, but yet you are living a commercial class life. And so you do
You do.
those problems. So there is the boundary doesn't make it doesn't make sense essentially, you know?
You don't want to deal with those problems, but you still have them, which means that you still on that frequency. I looked up last night, what are the fruit of the spirit? The fruit of the spirit. Because I was listening to this lady and she said, self-control is sexy. Okay. And that is one of the fruits of the spirit. That's a whole other topic that I was looking at. Point being, they are love, joy, peace, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. When you can operate from this, certain things they can't even be permitted in your life
Right.
because naturally how people deal with you will shift off of just the energy you put out. People know when they can bring C30 problems to you because you carry that energy. You have to transmute that energy. One way I do it, I journal. Like when you have a trigger, you have to realize this, the trigger is not bad. The trigger is your opportunity to turn your spiral.
Right. Mm-hmm. It's like your spiral has been given like life energy. Boom. Triggered energy. Now how do you want to direct it?
You're
Is it
gonna
gonna
do it.
direct it down or are you gonna bring it up?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And that's not to say that you're suppressing your emotions. It's different because you can be going through it, but it's what you do with what you're going through.
Yep. It's different.
It's different. You gotta know what's going on. You have to know. Gotta know.
Mm-hmm. Girl, I had a moment yesterday, actually. A whole moment. I love it. I love myself for it, right? Because it was such an eye-opening moment. So, where do I start with this? So, I had a massage booked. I had a client reschedule. Now, mind you, and I'm gonna also, as I'm telling this, I'm gonna point out where, right, the the moments and opportunities of growth presented themselves.
Mhm.
So I had a spa appointment, a client, and then something else that I completely forgot about happening all around the same time. I live in a place that does not follow daylight savings. So that means that time is consistent here. The clocks stay the same. There's no pushing the clock back. The time is the time. However, I still work in the States. So the time zone now shows that the States is an hour ahead of where I am. And then when we're off daylight savings, it goes back to the same time. So I don't change the time because one, I don't want to mess up my circadian rhythm even more than it's already altered by having that time change, that time difference from the US. But also because I live in a place that doesn't honor it, it would be even more challenging for here because for my process here, because everybody is literally on a different time than I'm on. Plus, because I work in the States, it's a lot, right? Because I work in the States, I have to be mentally on the States timeline. So I'm living in the Jamaica timeline, but work wise and task wise, I'm in the States timeline. All of that to say, when I book appointments in my calendar, I have now learned that it is more than important for me to make sure that I put the time zone
Mhm.
for these appointments. If it's something for Jamaica, I put the time zone for Jamaica. If it's something for the States, I put the US time zone. All that to say, I had a moment of panic because I had a Jamaica appointment with
Mhm.
no Jamaica time zone on it. And so
Mhm.
in that moment, I freaked out because I'm like, oh my gosh, is this US time or is it Jamaica time? Because if it was US time, then it would have conflicted with my excuse me, if it was Jamaica time, it would have conflicted with my US appointment.
Mhm.
Now, more backstory. The client that I had to reschedule was somebody that missed their appointment earlier that week. I don't work on Fridays.
Mhm.
And so me offering the client Friday was something that was outside of the
Mhm. Mhm.
boundary. So my field was already penetrated
Mhm.
because I violated my boundary. I
Mhm.
don't work. How many days? Monday. I don't work 5 days a week.
Mhm.
But here I am working 5 days a week So boom, that was the first kind of, like I said, penetration or hole in this field, in this frame that this container that I've created for myself. So that already has me in a frenzy, because not only did I do it outside of the time where I was supposed to do it, now there's an extra layer of pressure to keep the appointment because I've gone out of my way to make time for it. So I'm like, well, I gotta make it now because I've already made time for it. Girl, had a moment, and then I was triggered, right? In that moment, like, oh my gosh, right? I cried immediately. I was like, come on, ring it. Because I had about 20 minutes before the client was supposed to come. I said, I don't got time for this, but I need to figure this out. So I cried. I allowed myself to cry and be frustrated and be upset while also holding space for self-compassion. And so something else that has come with the work that I've been doing is a development of my higher self's voice and my adult self also. It's like my adult self and my higher self have gotten such a strong bond that when my child self or my younger self is having a hard time managing whatever responsibilities, choices, things like that that are happening, I have my higher self and my adult self to regulate, to calm it, right? To give it back that reassurance, to say, no, we got you. We got you, but you gotta sort this out first. So get through this, release, 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 become aware of why, like you were saying, become aware of why the trigger is surfacing. And then we'll meet you. We'll meet you. And I felt it. There was a coming to moment where I said, well, first of all, I wouldn't have booked an appointment so early. That was it. That was the wisdom. That was the wisdom that I needed to hear from myself, for me to know, like, there was no confusion, because who you are, again, going back to who you are, you wouldn't have done something like that. But because I violated my boundary, there was, again, a little bit of a, what's the word? How do I use it? There was like a hole in my understanding of who I am. There was a moment of doubt in who I am because I violated my boundary, because I stepped out of who I am. Right. And so when I got past that, it came back and was like, no, but you, because of how you structure your life, you wouldn't have done that. And then it was literally like, okay, I'm better now. Yep. That's it. I mean, but but what is interesting is that same reaction is something that my old self would have done fully and been in a pissy mood the rest of the day for it. You know, so in this, again, process and like learning and growing that we're talking about, the application comes because the old story has to come up for us to apply it. You know, if the old story didn't come up, what would we be applying the lessons to? So it's like, in me recognizing the separation that was created by not following a boundary, but also the lesson that came from allowing myself to be aware of it, acknowledge it, and accept it for what it is, now positions me to do something different in the future. So this time around, next time, right, I've learned that appointments, I need to make sure that they're specific to keep with my structure and my container of organization. I have to update it and keep it specific in order to maintain my boundaries. Not even my boundaries, maintain my being, so that my boundaries are not threatened.
Mhm.
That was a lot. That was
Mm,
a lot that came from that.
that was perfect. I think that's a perfect example. What stood out to me from it,
Mm.
I wrote down operating on multiple timelines.
Girl.
And underneath of that, I said multiple current C's.
Woo!
Okay. Because as I'm listening to you, I'm like, wait a minute. I'm also operating on multiple timelines. I'm East Coast, but my job is on Central. And then sometimes we partner with people in India. And such is life. I think that is a perfect example of what we were talking about earlier. That old story and the new story. And you just got to know what time you on. That's it. And I love that you were able to get to the root of, okay, what is this about?
Mm-hmm.
Solution. I have a similar, my example. Um, my bank, my bank, my bank. Baby, me trying to do some business stuff.
Yeah.
Being charged twice for a service I received once. Not knowing the difference between fraud and a dispute. Okay. For all those who did not know, be careful. If you dispute something, your bank will, if it's a credit card, they will go on your behalf to figure it out. If it's fraud, not so much. Okay. So fast forward, for the last 4 months, I have been back and forth with my bank about something that's been unfair, you know, and I was so angry. And it was like, I haven't been this mad in so long. What is this about? I was like, wait a minute. This isn't normal. This is
Mm-hmm.
this is old. So I said, this has to be something. There's a reason. I realized it was about the rejection. That's what
Mm.
deep. Because, and what I just wrote down was, it was like, now I felt as though knowledge was withheld from me. Okay. And then on top of that, I was punished as a result of knowledge being withheld from me. Okay. And so that punishment, that rejection, is like, well, you should have known better. And I was like, well, how could I have known better? If, how? How would I have known? That's been a theme of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I realized what it was, it helped me just say, oh, okay, let me go ahead and release this fear of rejection. So I've been working on that. That's been a big thing.
Yeah.
Um, but the way I transmuted it was in finding a loophole, just like what you said to yourself. Okay, no, here's what I needed to do. So you closed up that hole. Yeah. My
Mm-hmm.
loophole was to say, okay, well, if I can't dispute a charge that I said was fraud, okay, that's fine. But I can dispute the other charge, can't I? Because if what you're saying is true, they should have never charged me. And the lady got quiet on the phone. And she said, well, I would be concerned that you'll mess up your relationship with that company. And I said to her, I said, I'm more concerned with my relationship with you.
Woo! Hello.
Loophole, people. Okay.
Loophole.
Have to met the ability to manage those emotions is what makes it possible for you to then see your next step or the next button up in that process,
Mm.
right? Like,
Yes.
no, I'm learning. Okay, it's not 0 or 100. You got micro. It's
Girl.
not even 1, 2, 3, 4. You got 0.1, 0.2.
Listen.
We're gonna work it. We're gonna work every step.
Girl, that came to me.
Mm.
That came to me this week. Minutes, seconds, milliseconds. So there's so many things
There's so
happening
much.
in between.
There's so much. Don't pass it up because you're so anchored to that paradigm of this or that.
That
I was right or I was wrong, nah. Because
you
it's
was
really not, it's not about right or wrong. Let's take that off the table.
at all.
When you take the this or that off the table, your world opens up.
Mm,
It just opens up. And you can see and you can start operating from a higher boom. That I think helps you also connect to the field. When you get off of the this or that, you can tap in because the field is not based out of this or that.
right.
Field is everything
It's everything.
and more.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Something I've been living by is there really are no problems in life. If there's something that I can do, I will do it. If there's nothing I can do, I won't do anything. And let it play out.
Mm,
That's and that has been so liberating, even in this instance. I was like, okay, what's the next best thing?
yes.
Okay. And even a big, I think, aha for me was concession, conceding. Oh,
Mm,
old me, I'm not, I gotta push it to the end because this is wrong. But getting off of the right and wrong spectrum, it's like, okay, it may not be right. It might be wrong, but you win and you lose. What loss do I want?
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
And even that, realizing people will work with you in your loss.
It's
Okay.
literally, I mean, reprogramming how we see our experiences and the words. I mean, the English language, and I know we always build on the English language and breaking it down in etymology, and so it just comes, right? But when you said concession,
Mm.
immediately concession stand, game, taking a
Mhm.
break, right?
Yes.
And then
Mhm.
when you brought it to concede, like I never made the connection, right? That the root word of concession was concede, right? And
Mhm.
so now with the understanding of what concede is, concession means something different.
Usually them concession stand games are rigged, aren't they? Usually you have to concede.
There's there's a moment where you have to just give into the process, right? Like with the concession, so with the concession stand, the game is happening, right?
Mhm.
So the game is happening, and then there is this part where you agree to give into the environment of the game, take yourself out of the active space of watching the game to do something else. Go get some chips, go to the bathroom, whatever, whatever. But there is a coming away from the main show,
Mhm.
conceding from the main show in order to satisfy another need.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then you get what you get, and then you come back into it. But if you didn't have that process of conceding, you would be there watching the show, being the main player, but now you hungry, you
Mhm.
thirsty,
Mhm.
you gotta go to the bathroom. But because it's so important that you have to watch everything of the game, you didn't take that moment away to concede to the process fully.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. I like that. Mm-hmm.
All of it is all a part of the experience.
Mm-hmm.
And then without that break, how you're viewing the game now changes. Doing it from a place where needs are fulfilled, maybe in the beginning, you're excited. Yeah, 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 yeah. You get to the middle part. And then you're like, oh, I'm starting to feel like I need something. Your mind, literally, your perception literally shifts based off of what your needs are. And so even if the person decides to sit there through the whole game without taking that moment to go get some concessions, they're now seeing the game from a distorted view because they haven't gone to do the things that they need to do for themselves and for the process so that they can stay fresh.
Mm-hmm.
Keeping those fresh eyes on the game, keeping those renewed eyes on the game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the part of the process that some people, even myself, that we lose out on or we forget about. It's not talked about as much as like there is so much power in stepping back and allowing.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much power in stepping out of being the main player and trying to orchestrate and do this. Kind of like what you were saying, right? Working smarter, not harder. I don't have to put myself in any and every little thing in order to have it manifest.
Mm-hmm.
I can step back and it'll still happen. I could step back from that game and there still is going to be a winner and a loser at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Now, who I'm rooting for, that's my choice.
Mm-hmm.
Who I'm loyal to, that's my choice. Right? But the game still is going to happen regardless. So why sit in the game and be uncomfortable, not providing yourself with the things that you need, not refreshing, not renewing, not conceding, and going to receive all those things that are needed to come back fresh
Mm-hmm.
and continue on.
That's big wisdom. Big wisdom. Big wisdom. Work comes to mind for me. If we are programmed for self-sacrifice,
Mm.
how you approach work will be off. Yeah, you said perception shifts based on your needs. If you're not meeting your needs prior to approaching the work, you will be approaching the work from a deficit. And ego-based needs are usually, like that's been a big thing for me. I'm realizing, oh, I had a moment at work. Yeah, I was journaling. I'm like, why do I feel anxious? What is this old emotion about? And I was like, oh, this is just the old me where my ego was rooted in work. But my ego is no longer founded on that. So
Mm.
I no longer, it's so I can step back. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. Be, there's nothing wrong. And it was a wonderful, I'm like, yeah, this is 10 out of 10. Yeah.
That,
Mm. Mhm.
the world is going to continue. And even with the loss and the wins, right? It's losses something that I teach people when I do grief work with them. It's like for every loss that you experience, you've also gained something. And
Mm.
look at the loss and keep it on that one dimension where we just look at it as this is loss and this is loss. If we now open it up to, let's say, the dichotomy where, okay, well, for every loss, there's a gain. So there's a two part. And so maybe I lost the, maybe I lost the key to my house. Now I gain the opportunity to get a new key. Right. And so if we then open it up to the multidimensional perspective where we're adding in several opportunities, now that says, well, I've lost something. Now I have a hole to fill. And I could put anything in that hole. And so if we think about loss from just only the one perspective, we stay stuck in this sense of lack, this sense of deficiency again. Versus, yeah, maybe I did lose a significant other. Maybe I did lose a parent, right? And I gained all of this as a result because this is no longer being filled. Like energetically, this hole is open for a space to fill. And because my mind is receptive to the idea that I have a million possibilities, I now have opened up a million of other chances where I can gain something in replace of that.
Mhm.
And it's a challenging concept sometimes for people to really grasp because I think when you talk about the ego, there's something about the ego where it needs things to be simple. Like the ego is it's complex in its structure and in our understanding of it from the outside looking in, but the ego itself is simple. Protect. That is it's a protection. And
Protect-
so
Protection.
protection.
Mhm.
It's a protection. Yep. The ego is a protection of the spirit. The ego is a protection of our vulnerable parts. The ego is our external shell.
Mhm.
You know, so if the ego feels like it's losing a piece of its external being, we're gonna want to cling to it.
Mhm.
Right. So now going back to what we were saying before about tapping into the other frequencies, we'll go into your higher self. Your higher self is open to many other possibilities. So when you tap into that frequency, you now give the ego what it needs and more.
Mhm.
The ego doesn't even realize that it has limited itself from all the other possibilities because it's protecting.
Mhm.
The ego's job is not to decide when we're supposed to open up and be higher. That's not the ego is like, this is what it is. So if we give the ego more, then it creates a different relationship even with our ego.
Okay.
What just came to me too is it now orients our ego to be open to receiving the fruits of, was it the fruits of the spirit?
Mhm. Mhm.
Because we've now conditioned the ego to see that, okay, we have all these possibilities. And ego says, okay, well, within all those possibilities, I feel safer with this. And so we higher self is like, okay, that makes sense. We'll give you that. And so now ego is reset to a default of joy.
Mhm.
So anything that comes in to threaten joy, ego is now like, oh no, 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 no,
Mhm.
no, no.
Mhm. Mhm.
Protection,
Mhm.
right? But
Mhm.
it's a whole rewiring of the system,
Mhm.
mentally and spiritually and physically
Mhm. Mhm.
and physically.
Mhm. I love
We
that.
didn't even get to that. We might have to save that one for next time, but
For
because you
sure.
touched on it before, and I definitely want to come back to it, especially for the ladies. This
Mhm.
this sexiness,
Mhm.
this element of sexiness, and how it is a physical concept, but it's also spiritual, mental. It's deep.
Mhm.
Right? So allowing the body to also be a part of that expression in that system and that process is another key to it. Yeah, right,
Mm, mm,
right.
We're gonna have to, that's gonna be the next topic. That's, oh, we gotta get into that. We gotta get into that. We must, because that I was doing some deep journaling about sexuality, um, and realizing I can tap into what other cultures teach and just adopt it.
Mm.
I was listening to this lady on YouTube. She's Ugandan. That apparently Ugandan women are known to be like top tier lovers. And I was fascinated, thinking like, oh, they must teach them how to have great sex and yada, yada, yada. And she was like, okay, yeah, but that's not where it stems from. We're taught about wellness first. And
Mm.
I said,
Mm.
as an
Yeah.
American, I never put that together. But she said from young, the women are taught to resonate with their bodies. She said the way womanhood, and consequently motherhood, just how womanhood, she said, they made womanhood sound so amazing.
Mm.
So yes, that's gonna be the next topic. Because for me, I was like, these are the things I would tell my daughter. Like,
Yeah.
oh, it. And also tell my inner child.
Like, yes, girl, it's deep. It's deep.
This has been so good, Shella.
It has been amazing. Oh my
Episode
God.
1.
Episode 1. We don't have a name. We didn't even introduce ourselves, but baby, we're here. We're here.
We are. Give us some ideas in the comments below.
Yes.
To like and subscribe and
Yes.
share.
Yes.
Let us know what your favorite parts of this was.
What are your favorite parts? What do you think the name of this experience is? Is it a podcast? Is it a what is it? Let us know. Share your thoughts, any feedback. We welcome it all. And, you know, sis, I love how we are so tapped in always. Like, it's like laser. And I love it. I truly love it. I'm so grateful for it.
Me too.
And, I know that if we have this type of connection, imagine all the other people, right? We're the two, right? So now imagine all the other millions of people who are tapped in with us,
Mm.
right? All
Oh.
the milliseconds of information that we put out, every millisecond is valuable to somebody.
Mm.
And I mean, yeah, let's like just bask in that. Just bask in that, right? So until next time,
Fine.
thank you guys. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Divine Spirit, for allowing us to be here and do what we do and doing it well, always.
What's that?
Always. All right now.
Until next time. Bye.
Uh,